Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Earth's last stand left the Galactic Council shaken. The Galactic Council chamber was eerily silent as the holographic display flickered to life in the center of the massive hall. Representatives from hundreds of alien species, each more advanced than the last, stared at the grainy footage with growing unease. It was a live feed from the front line, a place they had long assumed would never fall. The Zelrath had arrived. They were a race feared across the known universe, a war-driven species that consumed entire civilizations, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. The Galactic Council had fought them before but never won. The best they could do was delay the inevitable by sacrificing planets in the hopes of buying time. But now Earth was in their path, a small, unassuming world on the fringes of the galaxy. It had no interstellar empire, no fleets of warships patrolling the void. By all accounts, it was primitive. The humans still fought among themselves, still relied on fragile political structures, and their technology was centuries behind even the weakest council species. Yet something was wrong. The footage showed Zelrath warships descending through Earth's atmosphere, their spiked hulls glowing red as they prepared for planetary bombardment. And then they stopped. No explosion, no destruction, no screams of terror. Instead, the Zelrath ships hovered in place, unmoving, the silence stretched across the battlefield, broken only by static-filled transmissions from the confused invaders. Their advance had halted in mere moments, as if some unseen force had grabbed their war machines and held them in an unbreakable grip. The Council watched as Earth's response began. Human aircraft, ancient by galactic standards, screamed through the sky in tight formations, their missiles streaking toward the immobilized Zelrath fleet. The impact was devastating. Explosions tore through the alien ships, sending debris raining down onto the cities below. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning. A murmur spread through the chamber. "This is impossible," hissed the Ralvex ambassador, his many eyes wide with disbelief. "Those ships have conquered worlds protected by entire armadas, and now they're being shot down by projectile-based weaponry." More footage appeared. Ground battles, Zelrath warriors, 7 feet tall, armored in bioorganic plating and equipped with energy weapons capable of melting steel, were being cut down in droves by humans. Primitive bullets shredded through their bodies, explosives designed for human warfare turned Zelrath fortifications into rubble. And when the fighting got too close for ranged weapons, the humans tore them apart with their bare hands. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some council members whispered that the footage had to be faked, others demanded immediate intervention, fearing that if the Zelrath fell here, humanity would rise too far, too fast. But then came the final transmission. A battered Zelrath warlord, his face bloodied and his breathing ragged, stared into the camera. Behind him, the ruins of his once mighty fleet burned in the distance. He spoke one sentence before the signal cut out. His voice was filled with something no one had ever heard from his kind before: fear. "Do not come to Earth. It is already theirs." The Council could do nothing but tremble. Panic spread through the Galactic Council chamber like wildfire. The very idea that the Zelrath, the same species that had ground entire civilizations into dust, had been reduced to fear was unthinkable, yet the proof was undeniable. The footage of Earth's counterattack replayed on the central screen, again and again, as the Council watched humans tear through the Zelrath forces. Their primitive weapons should have been useless, their defenses laughable, their species easily crushed, but that wasn't what had happened. Humanity had annihilated them. The Speaker of the Council, a towering Selnari elder with shimmering blue skin and 6 piercing eyes, finally rose from his seat. His voice was slow, careful, but the undercurrent of dread could not be hidden. "We must consider what this means," he said, his mandibles clicking. "If Earth is capable of defeating the Zelrath, what does that mean for the rest of us?" The room fell silent again. For eons, the Galactic Council had believed itself to be the highest authority in the known universe. Every species within its ranks had been weighed, measured, and categorized. Those who were weak were ignored, those who were strong were brought into the fold, those who resisted were dealt with. Humanity had never been considered a threat. They were a Category 2 species, barely capable of interstellar travel, possessing no significant fleets, no advanced energy weapons, and no unified planetary government, a race still entangled in its own primitive conflicts. Yet, despite all of that, they had just done something no species had ever managed before: they had broken the Zelrath. A reptilian delegate from the Draw Dominion clicked his talons against the stone table, his frilled crest rising in unease. Perhaps it was a fluke, he suggested, though his voice lacked confidence. The Zelrath may have underestimated them, a miscalculation, nothing more. The screen shifted, displaying intercepted Zelrath transmissions, broken messages filled with desperation and confusion. Their minds, something is wrong with their minds. They do not fight for survival. They fight for destruction. They are laughing while they kill us. The room turned deathly quiet. A heavy, bipedal creature with cybernetic enhancements let out a deep synthetic growl. Laughter, the Vanti warlord rumbled. Why would they be enjoying this? A soft chime rang through the chamber, a new transmission. The delegate stiffened. It was coming directly from the Sol system. The humans had never reached out to the Council before, they had barely acknowledged the greater galactic community until now. The image flickered to life. A human stood before them, dressed in simple military attire. His features were sharp, his eyes cold. But what unsettled the Council the most wasn't his appearance, it was the smile on his face. It wasn't the expression of a species that had barely survived an invasion, it wasn't relief, it wasn't exhaustion, it was amusement. The human spoke, his voice calm, almost casual. "You're watching, aren't you?" The council members shifted uncomfortably. The human's smile widened. "You wanted to see what we're capable of. I hope the show didn't disappoint." A murmur rippled through the chamber. No species had ever addressed the council in such an informal, almost mocking tone. The human continued, his eyes locking onto the screen as if he could see each of them directly. "We know who you are. We've known for a while now. You like to sit in your little towers, playing judge over the galaxy, deciding who gets to thrive and who gets to die." His expression darkened, the smile fading. "You thought Earth was weak. You thought we were primitive." He leaned in slightly, and the transmission flickered with static. "You have no idea what we are." He gestured behind him, and the screen shifted to a live feed of Earth, not just the war-torn battlefields, but cities, factories working at full capacity, research facilities with blueprints for weapons the Council couldn't even comprehend, humans preparing. "For centuries, we fought each other. We wiped out entire civilizations before we even left our own planet. Do you think an alien invasion was going to break us?" He chuckled, shaking his head. "You just gave us a reason to unite." A low hum of alarm spread through the chamber. The human leaned back, arms crossed. "So here's how this is going to go," he said. "Earth doesn't need your help. We don't need your approval, and we sure as hell don't need your rules." He let that sink in before delivering the final blow. "You just watched us end the Zelrath." He tilted his head. "Tell me, what do you think we'll do if someone else comes knocking?" The transmission cut. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council knew what fear felt like. The Galactic Council chamber remained frozen in stunned silence long after the transmission ended. No one dared to speak, no one dared to move. The weight of what they had just witnessed pressed down on them like an unforgiving force. The Zelrath had been the galaxy's executioners, the enforcers of extinction. For eons, civilizations had trembled at their name. The Council had spent centuries debating ways to contain them, to slow them, but no species had ever succeeded in stopping them until now. A primitive world, no, a human world, had crushed them utterly, and they hadn't just fought back, they had laughed while doing it. The Ralvex ambassador, still shaking, finally found his voice. We cannot let this stand," he stammered. "If humans have truly destroyed the Zelrath, then that means they are now the dominant force in the galaxy, and that is unacceptable." A low murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The council had been at the top for millennia. They dictated the rules. They controlled the balance of power. The thought of a species outside their grasp rising to such dominance was terrifying. The Draw Dominion's ambassador, his golden eyes narrowed, tapped a clawed finger against the table. "We must consider containment," he said. "A preemptive strike before they become a greater threat." Another species, the insectoid Jot-Il, clicked its mandibles in warning. "Contain them. Did you not hear what was just said? The humans know about us. They are already preparing. They expected this reaction." Silence fell again. That was the true horror of the situation. The humans had not just defeated the Zelrath, they had sent a message to the rest of the galaxy. They knew exactly what they were doing. The Speaker of the Council, the oldest and most powerful among them, finally exhaled a slow, measured breath. His 6 eyes gleamed with something the other delegates were too afraid to name. "They are not like us," he murmured. "Every species in this chamber rose from struggle, from hardship, but humanity, they rose from war." He gestured toward the darkened, hollow screen. "We sit here afraid of what they might become. But I ask you, what if it is already too late? What if, for all our advancements, for all our intelligence, we were always meant to be their prey?" The word sent a chill through the room. No one had ever considered that possibility, that perhaps they were not the apex species of the galaxy, that perhaps all this time the humans had simply been waiting, lurking in the dark until the right moment to reveal themselves. The Zelrath had made a mistake. They had forced humanity to unite. They had forced humanity to evolve. Now the Galactic Council had only 2 choices: bend the knee or prepare for war. And deep down, every species in that room already knew the outcome. No one had ever survived a war against humanity, not even humanity itself. The council chamber descended into chaos. For the first time in recorded history, there was no semblance of order. Representatives of dozens of civilizations shouted over one another, some calling for diplomacy, others for war, a few whispered of retreat, of isolation, of hiding from the new apex predator that had just declared its place in the galactic food chain, but there was no hiding from humans. The Draw Dominion ambassador slammed a clawed hand against the table, his frilled crest flaring. "We strike now, while they are still contained on their home world. We cannot allow this madness to spread." A member of the Jot-Il delegation, a towering insectoid being with glistening black carapace, chittered in response. "And how do you suggest we do that? You saw the footage. The Zelrath were not merely defeated, they were eradicated. Their warships were torn from the sky. Their armies were shattered. We cannot fight what we do not understand." The Ralvex representative, still trembling from the transmission, hissed, "Then we contain them. We blockade their system, cut off all potential avenues for expansion. If they cannot leave their world, they cannot threaten us." "And what happens when they find a way through?" came a soft, measured voice. The room fell silent. The speaker was an Urali, one of the oldest and wisest species in the council. Their race had never spoken in aggression, never taken part in war. Yet now their representative sat forward, 6 luminous eyes filled with something close to fear. "You assume humans need our technology to leave their system," the Urali said, voice calm but firm. "But have you considered the alternative?" The other delegates hesitated. "What do you mean?" the Draw ambassador asked. The Urali exhaled slowly. The Zelrath were far more advanced than humanity. Their warships were decades, if not centuries, ahead of Earth's capabilities. Their mandibles clicked. Yet humanity overcame them. They did not do so with superior firepower, nor with overwhelming numbers. They did so because they are something the galaxy has never encountered before. A cold, sinking realization swept through the chamber. Humans had evolved for war. While other species had advanced beyond their primitive instincts, forming vast and peaceful civilizations, humanity had never left the battlefield behind. Even before they reached the stars, they had mastered warfare on every scale: biological, technological, psychological. They had fought wars over ideals, over resources, over mere words. They had turned violence into an art form, and now that art had been unleashed on the galaxy. The Speaker of the Council, his 6 eyes heavy with the weight of their future, finally spoke. There is only one course of action left to us. The entire room fell deathly still. We must speak with them. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Diplomacy with them? You cannot be serious. The Draw ambassador spat. After what we just witnessed, after what they just threatened, you want to sit down and talk. The speaker's gaze darkened. And what alternative do you propose? He asked. A war against an enemy that thrives in war, against a species that does not surrender, does not retreat, and does not fear death. No one had an answer. The speaker continued, his voice solemn, the humans have already won, whether we acknowledge it or not. The Zelrath learned this too late. We will not make the same mistake. A pause. Then the speaker gave the order that would shape the fate of the galaxy: send a delegation to Earth. The Terran military outpost was nothing grand, a simple structure built from reinforced steel and concrete, resting on the outskirts of what had once been a major Zelrath invasion zone. The land still bore scars of the battle: twisted metal, scorched earth, the husks of alien war machines. But the humans had already begun rebuilding. A small Galactic Council envoy stood before the entrance, their ships having been escorted to the surface by Terran aerospace fighters, an act that made it painfully clear who was truly in control. A human soldier stepped forward to greet them. He was unremarkable by galactic standards: no cybernetic enhancements, no energy shields, just flesh and bone. But something in his stance, in the cold, calculating look in his eyes, sent a chill through the delegation. You're the delegation, huh? The soldier said, looking them over. The council emissary and Elder Urali took a cautious step forward. We have come to, yeah, the soldier interrupted with a smirk. You want to talk, negotiate, figure out how to deal with us. He nodded toward the entrance. Come on in. The commander's waiting. The council delegation hesitated. The soldier chuckled, shaking his head. Relax. If we wanted you dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It was not a reassurance, it was a statement of fact. The council members swallowed their fear and stepped forward. For the first time in galactic history, the rulers of the stars had come not to dictate terms but to beg for them. The council delegation stepped into the Terran outpost, the air thick with tension. It was a stark contrast to the grand halls of the Galactic Council chamber: no gilded architecture, no towering displays of power, just steel walls, low humming machinery, and the ever-present weight of something far more dangerous than mere technology: purpose. Every human in the room, whether scientist, engineer, or soldier, moved with the same focused intensity. There was no idle chatter, no wasted motion. These were not people merely surviving in the aftermath of war, they were preparing for the next one. The delegation was led into a command center where a single human sat waiting for them. He was older than the soldier who had greeted them, his uniform crisp, his expression unreadable. His eyes, however, held no fear. The Urali emissary, their bioluminescent eyes flickering with unease, stepped forward. I am Aranai, representative of the Galactic Council. The human studied them for a moment before responding. General Elias Carter, he said simply. No elaborate titles, no unnecessary grandeur, just a name. Aranai hesitated, then pressed on. We have come to discuss the events that have transpired. There is much concern among the council. A ghost of a smile tugged at the corners of Carter's mouth. Concern. That's one way to put it. He leaned back slightly. Let me guess, you're here to decide if we're a threat. Aranai hesitated. We are here to understand. Carter let out a slow breath. All right, he said. Let me make it simple for you. He tapped a console, and a holographic projection appeared. It was a timeline, centuries of war, from the earliest human conflicts to the most devastating planetary battles, wars that had shaped entire nations, collapsed empires, and redrawn the course of history. Our history is written in blood, Carter said. Every species faces hardship. Every civilization struggles to survive. But humanity, we were born in war. He shifted the display to a new image, footage from the Zelrath invasion, a brutal montage of human forces tearing through the enemy, not just with weapons but with strategy. We learned something a long time ago, Carter continued. You don't win wars with superior numbers, you don't win them with superior firepower. He turned his gaze to the delegation. You win them by outthinking your enemy, by outlasting them, by becoming something they can't predict. Silence filled the room. The Draw ambassador, his claws twitching slightly, finally spoke, Then what is it you want, General Carter? Carter leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. What we want, he exhaled, shaking his head. You still don't get it, do you? He stood up slowly, pacing around the table. We don't want your approval. We don't need your alliances, and we sure as hell don't need your permission to exist. He stopped, locking eyes with each delegate in turn. The question isn't what we want. It's what you want. His voice dropped to something low and dangerous. You want to know if humanity is a threat? He tilted his head slightly. That depends. Are you a threat to us? The weight of the question settled over the delegation like a suffocating force. Aranai, despite the fear pressing against their very soul, took a slow breath. We do not wish for war. General Carter studied them for a long moment, then nodded. Then you won't have one. Relief rippled through the delegation, only for Carter's next words to drive home a chilling truth. But if war does come, he said, voice steady, it will not be like anything you've ever seen before. He leaned forward slightly. We won't conquer. We won't occupy. He smiled. We will end you. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. For the first time in their existence, the Galactic Council had encountered something beyond their control, not an empire, not an invader, not a conqueror, but a force that would never be stopped, a force called humanity. 1 year later, the Galactic Council had not declared war, but they hadn't declared peace either. Instead, an unspoken Cold War had begun, one built on fear, uncertainty, and the silent understanding that Earth was now the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The Council had sent probes attempting to monitor human activities from a safe distance. They wanted to know how quickly humanity was advancing, how much of the Zelrath's technology they had reverse-engineered. They learned nothing. Every probe sent to the Sol system simply vanished, no wreckage, no distress signals, just complete silence. And then the disappearances started. Not on Earth, not even in the Sol system, but on the fringes of the Council's most powerful empires. Entire ships, entire research stations, entire fleets were wiped from existence without a trace. The Council scrambled to uncover the truth. They dispatched their most advanced warships to investigate, believing it to be the work of a rogue faction, perhaps a remaining Zelrath remnant. They found nothing, no wreckage, no distress calls, no evidence that an enemy had even been there. And then one day, a single derelict warship drifted into Council space, a battlecruiser from the mighty Draw Dominion, its hull torn open as if something had ripped it apart from the inside. A distress beacon was still active. The Council intercepted it, bringing the ship into a secure orbital station for investigation. Scientists, engineers, and intelligence officers gathered, desperate for answers. They activated the ship's black box recorder. Static filled the room. Then a single broken transmission, a voice, panicked and terrified, they're here. We don't know how. They don't have ships. They don't have fleets, but they're here. A deep, ragged breath. Then a whisper, they walk in the shadows. They know where we sleep. They are hunting us. Another pause. The sound of movement, something metal scraping against the floor, a sob. They're not an empire. They're not a nation. They are ghosts, and they are already here. A loud crash, screaming gunfire, then silence. The recording ended. The room was deathly quiet. Then the monitors flickered, one by one, across the orbital station. Every screen turned black before displaying the same thing, a simple message written in flawless galactic common: "We warned you. Now we are watching." Panic gripped the Council. Humanity had never left Earth, but they had spread, no fleets, no armies, no invasions, yet they were everywhere. And for the first time, the rulers of the galaxy understood what it felt like to be prey. Fear spread like wildfire. The Galactic Council had controlled the stars for millennia, balancing power among its many empires, quelling rebellions before they could take root, deciding the fate of entire species with nothing more than a council vote. Now, they were the ones being hunted, not by warships, not by invading legions, but by something unseen. Entire planetary governors went missing overnight, high-ranking military officers vanished from the safety of their fortified stations, no alarms, no signs of struggle, no bodies, just gone. Some council species refused to believe it was humanity. How could it be? The Draw Dominion controlled thousands of worlds. The Ralvex Imperium had the most sophisticated intelligence network in the known galaxy. The Jadil swarmed across hundreds of sectors with hive-mind coordination. Yet all of them were losing people. The disappearances weren't random. They weren't chaotic, they were calculated. The Council called an emergency session. Inside the Grand Chamber, the air was thick with paranoia. Every species present had fortified their security, tripled their personal guards, scanned their rooms for human listening devices. It didn't help. They all knew the truth: humanity was already inside. The Speaker of the Council, a being older than some stars, stood before the assembly. His once steady voice now wavered. "We cannot allow this to continue," he said. "Who among us has not been affected?" No one spoke, because every species in the chamber had already suffered a loss. A Draw warlord gritted his fanged teeth. "This is not warfare," he growled. "This is terror." A representative from the Ralvex Imperium, her many eyes scanning the chamber nervously, hissed, "No, this is worse than terror. Terror is chaotic. This is surgical." The Jadil ambassador, an insectoid creature with razor-sharp mandibles, chittered anxiously, "They are taking our leaders." But why? Why have they not made demands? That was the part that frightened the Council most.